His money's almost ours, baby. Those whispered words shattered my world at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday night. My daughter-in-law, Ashley, was talking to my son Nathan right outside my bedroom door, thinking I was fast asleep. But I heard every calculated word of their plan to get rid of the old man, me. I'd already handed them everything. Access to my $220,000 life savings. Power of attorney, my own house. I thought I was being the perfect father and grandfather. Instead, I was funding my own destruction. 3 days later, Ashley would humiliate me in front of my entire family at Thanksgiving dinner. But she made one critical mistake that night. She underestimated what a desperate man with nothing left to lose could do when he finally decides to fight back. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. I'm Charles Miller, 72 years old. This is the story of how I took it all back. For 72 years, I lived by simple rules. Work hard, provide for family, trust the people you love. My wife Martha and I spent 45 years building something together. I started Miller Electric Company with nothing but a toolbox and a work truck. 40-hour weeks turned into 60-hour weeks. Weekend calls, emergency repairs in the rain and snow. Every dollar I earned, every sacrifice I made, it was all for one purpose: giving Nathan a better life than I had. When Martha passed 3 years ago from cancer, Nathan was all I had left. My only child, my greatest achievement. I'd already paid for his college education, his wedding, the down payment on his first house. When he struggled with his mortgage payments, I helped. When Ashley wanted to stay home with the kids, I covered their expenses. I thought that's what fathers do. You give until it hurts, and then you give some more. Love makes us blind to the obvious. Meeting Ashley 4 years ago should have been a celebration. Nathan brought her to our annual 4th of July barbecue, nervous and excited. She was beautiful, charming, and she called me Dad from day one. I was so grateful that Nathan had found someone after his difficult divorce. Ashley seemed to adore him, and she was wonderful with his 2 children from his previous marriage. But even then, there were signs, small things. Ashley would steer conversations toward my finances, asking innocent questions about retirement planning and inheritance. She'd comment on my big house and how I must get lonely, living there by myself. When I mentioned my life insurance policies, she took notes. I told myself she was just being practical, thinking about their future together. I should have listened to my gut. After their wedding, everything changed gradually. Ashley's warm smiles became cooler. Her questions about money became more direct. She started suggesting I was getting forgetful and needed help managing my affairs. Nathan, completely in love, agreed with everything his new wife said. "Dad, Ashley's just looking out for you," he'd say when I expressed concerns. Poison works slowly. Within a year of their marriage, I was no longer a father-in-law. I was a resource to be managed. Ashley took over organizing family gatherings, always positioning herself as the hostess, while I became a guest in conversations. She'd interrupt me mid-sentence, claiming I was repeating stories. She'd roll her eyes when I spoke, training Nathan to see his father as a burden, rather than the man who'd sacrificed everything for his happiness. But that November night, lying in my bed in the converted garage apartment they'd convinced me to move into temporarily, I finally heard the truth. My bedroom shared a wall with the main house, and sound carried through the thin drywall. Ashley and Nathan thought I was asleep. They were wrong. "The money will be ours soon," Ashley whispered. "We just need to be patient a little longer. Once we get him into Sunset Manor, we'll have complete control of the accounts." "Are you sure this will work?" Nathan's voice was uncertain. "Baby, he signed the power of attorney in March. Dr. Richards already documented his memory issues in his file. Your family thinks he's declining. Once we show everyone at Thanksgiving that he can't take care of himself anymore, we'll have full support to make the nursing home decision." My heart stopped beating. "What about the will?" Nathan asked. Don't worry about that. He's never changed it. Everything comes to you, and what's yours is mine. $220,000 is a lot of money, Nathan. Enough to pay off our debts and buy that house we wanted. We just need him out of the way." I lay there in the darkness, my body frozen but my mind racing. Every kind gesture, every "Dad, we're just worried about you," every suggestion that I was losing my faculties. It had all been calculated. They weren't protecting me. They were positioning me. But they made one crucial error that night. They assumed I was helpless. They assumed I was stupid. They assumed I would go quietly into whatever future they had planned for me. That's when I knew everything had to change. Every signature was an act of love. Let me tell you exactly how I built the fortune they wanted to steal. Miller Electric Company wasn't handed to me. I created it from nothing. In 1976, I borrowed $3,000 against our house to buy equipment and a used truck. Martha supported that decision, even though we had a 6-month-old baby and barely enough money for groceries. For the next 30 years, I worked 7 days a week during busy seasons. Emergency calls at 3 a.m., crawling through attics in August heat, rewiring entire buildings by myself. When I sold the company in 2018, I walked away with $1,000 and $800,000. Combined with our savings and Martha's life insurance, we had $220,000, money that represented every drop of sweat, every missed family dinner, every sacrifice we made so Nathan could have opportunities we never had. I never thought love could be weaponized. After Ashley joined our family, I made what I thought were generous decisions. When they struggled to qualify for their dream house mortgage, I agreed to co-sign. When Ashley wanted to quit her job to focus on family, I started covering their monthly expenses, $1,800 for mortgage, utilities, groceries, and childcare. When Nathan's credit card debt reached $35,000, I paid it off without question. "Dad, you're amazing," Nathan would say. "I don't know what we'd do without you." I felt proud, useful, needed. In March of this year, Ashley suggested I should have someone help me manage my finances just in case something happened. And she'd printed out articles about elderly financial abuse and dementia-related money management problems. She was so caring, so concerned about protecting me from potential scammers. "Charles, you're getting older," she said sweetly. "What if someone took advantage of you? What if you forgot to pay bills or made a mistake with your accounts? Nathan and I just want to make sure you're safe." The power of attorney documents were already prepared. Ashley had researched everything, found the right forms, even scheduled an appointment with a notary. All I had to do was sign. Trust became my weakness. That signature on March 15th gave Nathan legal authority over my bank accounts, my investments, my property decisions, and my medical care. I thought I was being responsible. I thought I was protecting our family's future. Instead, I was signing away my independence to people who saw me as an obstacle to overcome. Within weeks, they suggested I should move out of the master bedroom. "Charles, those stairs are getting dangerous for you," Ashley explained. "What if you fell at night and we couldn't hear you?" The converted garage apartment was perfect for me. Private, safe, closer to the ground. I moved my belongings into 400 square feet, while they took over the 3,000 square foot house I'd built. I became a tenant in my own home. The financial changes started gradually. Ashley began helping me organize my mail, sorting through bank statements and investment reports. She set up online access to all my accounts, claiming it would be easier for Nathan to help monitor things. She scheduled appointments with my financial advisor, always accompanying me, always taking notes, always asking about withdrawal procedures and transfer options. "We just want to understand everything, Charles," she'd say, "so we can help you better." I trusted them completely. When I had a minor heart palpitation in August, Ashley insisted I needed someone to manage my healthcare decisions. "What if something serious happens and you can't speak for yourself?" she asked. The medical power of attorney was another protection measure, she explained. Another way they could take care of me if I couldn't take care of myself. I learned to watch and wait. But I wasn't as helpless as they believed. 45 years in business taught me to pay attention to details other people miss. I started noticing things. Ashley researching nursing home costs on her laptop. Nathan asking seemingly innocent questions about my will and life insurance policies. phone conversations that stopped when I entered rooms, documents left on their kitchen counter with highlighted sections about incapacitated persons and financial guardianship. By October, I realized they weren't planning to care for me. They were planning to warehouse me. That's when I bought the digital recorder pen at Office Depot, small enough to clip inside my shirt pocket, powerful enough to capture conversations clearly. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was imagining threats that didn't exist. But paranoia and preparation often look the same until you need the evidence. I documented everything, their conversations about my declining mental state, Ashley's research into forcing nursing home placement, their discussions about which accounts would be easiest to manage once I was out of the way. 3 weeks of recordings that painted a clear picture of their intentions, but watching wasn't enough anymore. The night I heard Ashley whisper about my money almost being theirs, I knew documentation wouldn't save me. Evidence without action is just delayed betrayal. They had legal control of my finances, my property, and my medical decisions. They had positioned me as an incompetent old man in the eyes of my family. They had planned every detail of my disposal except for one crucial element. They had no idea I was still fighting back. Respect died in small cuts. The first time Ashley interrupted me mid-sentence, I thought it was an accident. We were having dinner, and I was telling Nathan about a conversation with my old business partner. Ashley suddenly spoke over me. "Charles, you already told us that story yesterday," she said with a concerned smile. "And last week, too." Nathan looked uncomfortable but said nothing. I had never told that story before. "I don't think I did, Ashley." "Oh, you definitely did. Right, honey?" She looked at Nathan expectantly. Nathan glanced between us, clearly trapped. "Yeah, Dad, I think maybe you did mention it." That was the moment I realized Ashley wasn't just rude. She was strategic. She was systematically undermining my credibility, creating doubt about my memory, training Nathan to see his father as confused and unreliable. Each dismissal was planned. By September, the interruptions became routine. I'd start speaking, and Ashley would cut me off with phrases like, "Let me help you with that story, Charles," or "I think what Charles means to say is..." She spoke about me in the third person while I sat right there, as if I was a child who couldn't communicate properly. The worst part wasn't Ashley's behavior. It was watching Nathan adapt to it. "Dad," he'd say when I objected, "Ashley's just trying to help. Maybe you are forgetting some things. It's normal at your age." Freedom was rationed like medicine. In October, Ashley started questioning my spending. A $47 dinner with my friend Tom became a concerning expense. "Charles, do you really need to be eating out so much?" she asked, reviewing my bank statement. "That's almost $50 for one meal. When I was your age, when someone is managing their money carefully, they usually eat at home more." When I bought a new winter coat for $89, Ashley made sure Nathan knew about it. "Your dad spent almost $100 on a coat yesterday. I'm worried he's becoming impulsive with money. Maybe we should set up some spending limits for his own protection." Every purchase over $50 required explanation. Every decision needed approval. My own money became their surveillance system, and I became a suspect in my own financial life. But I was surveilling something too. I started carrying the digital recorder pen everywhere. At first, I felt guilty about recording their conversations. These were family members, people I loved. But family members don't usually discuss your funeral arrangements while you're still healthy. "We should probably start looking at funeral homes," Ashley told Nathan one afternoon. I was in my apartment, but my window was open, and their voices carried clearly. He's 72, and with his heart issues..." "Ashley, that seems premature. But Nathan, be practical. These things take planning, and think about the expense. Funerals cost $15,000 to $20,000 these days. We need to budget for that." They were planning my death like a vacation. Isolation's the abuser's first weapon. By November, Ashley was actively discouraging my social connections. When Tom invited me to play poker with our Thursday night group, Ashley intervened. "Charles, those men are such bad influences on you. All that drinking and gambling, it's not good for someone with your health issues." I hadn't had a drink in 6 months, and our poker games involved nickels and dimes. When my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, invited me for coffee, Ashley found reasons why I couldn't go. "Charles, you look tired today. Maybe you should rest instead of running around the neighborhood." When my former employee Jake called about lunch, Ashley answered my phone. "Oh, Jake, Charles isn't feeling well today. He's been having some confusion lately, and we think social activities might be overwhelming him. Maybe give him some space for a while." I never got that message until 3 weeks later when Jake mentioned it to someone who told me. By then, Ashley had protected me from a dozen social invitations I never knew about. She was writing my obituary while I still lived. The medical manipulation was the most calculated abuse. Ashley accompanied me to every doctor's appointment, always arriving early to speak with Dr. Richards privately. During the appointment, she would answer questions directed at me. "How has Charles been feeling?" Before I could respond, Ashley jumped in. "Doctor, I've been really concerned. He's been forgetting things, repeating stories, and yesterday he couldn't remember where he put his car keys. I'm worried about early dementia." "I feel fine," I said. "Charles, you always say you feel fine," Ashley replied sympathetically. "That's part of the problem. People with memory issues often don't recognize their own symptoms." Dr. Richards looked uncomfortable but made notes. I realized Ashley was building a medical case for incompetency, one appointment at a time. She was creating a paper trail that would support whatever legal actions they planned to take. After the appointment, I asked Dr. Richards for copies of my medical records. What I read made my blood run cold. Ashley had provided a detailed list of symptoms I'd allegedly shown: forgetting names, getting lost driving, leaving stove burners on, difficulty managing finances. None of it was true, but it was all documented in my official medical file. That's when I decided to write hers instead. The mask was slipping on both sides. By the 3rd week of November, Ashley had stopped pretending to respect me even in public. At the grocery store, she loudly corrected me in front of other customers. "Charles, you don't need 3 cans of soup. You already have soup at home. Remember? We talked about this." At the bank, she spoke for me to the teller. "He's here to check his account balance, but I'll handle the transaction. He gets confused with the numbers sometimes." At my barber shop, where I'd been getting haircuts for 20 years, Ashley told the barber I had special needs now and required simple instructions. Each public humiliation was designed to establish a narrative. Charles Miller is losing his mind, and Ashley is the saint taking care of him. But I was establishing my own narrative. Every conversation, every manipulation attempt, every lie was captured on my digital recorder. 3 weeks of evidence that would reveal exactly who needed protection and from whom. Thanksgiving would change everything. I knew Ashley was planning something special for the holiday dinner. She'd invited extended family, Nathan's cousins, her parents, neighbors who'd witnessed months of my alleged decline, and she wanted an audience for whatever performance she had prepared. I was ready to give her one. I set the table for my own execution. Thanksgiving morning, I woke up early and prepared the traditional meal using Martha's recipes: turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce, green bean casserole, mashed potatoes, and pumpkin pie. 12 people were expected: Nathan and Ashley, her parents, Robert and Linda, Nathan's cousins Mike and Sarah with their spouses, and my neighbors, the Johnsons, who'd been family friends for 15 years. Ashley had positioned herself as the hostess, of course. She arranged the seating chart, planned the decorations, and took credit for organizing the meal I'd spent 8 hours preparing. When guests arrived, she greeted them at the door of my house as if she owned it. "Welcome, come in, come in. Charles has been so excited about today." She spoke about me like I was a confused child excited about Christmas. The feast began with gratitude. Robert, Ashley's father, led grace before the meal. "We're thankful for family, for health, for this beautiful home Charles has provided for Nathan and Ashley, and for the love that brings us together." I noticed Ashley and Nathan exchange glances during the prayer. My digital recorder pen was clipped inside my shirt pocket, capturing every word. I had no idea what Ashley had planned, but I was ready to document it. For the first hour, conversation flowed normally. Football scores, holiday travel plans, work updates. Ashley played the perfect daughter-in-law, bringing me extra napkins, asking if I needed anything, telling guests how wonderful I'd been about adjusting to changes. Then, during dessert, Ashley stood up and tapped her wine glass with a spoon. "Everyone, I need to share something important with you tonight." The room fell silent. Nathan looked nervous, but didn't stop her. Truth and lies sound the same at first. "Charles," Ashley began, her voice dripping with false concern, "has been struggling lately with some basic tasks. We've been worried about his safety and well-being." She opened a folder she'd prepared and spread papers across the table. Bank statements showing overdraft fees, expired food she'd planted in my refrigerator, unpaid bills she'd hidden from me. "He forgot to pay his electric bill last month, and they sent a disconnection notice. Yesterday I found milk in his refrigerator that expired 2 weeks ago. This morning he couldn't remember which medication he's supposed to take with breakfast." Every accusation was a deliberate lie, but she presented them with such loving concern that guests began nodding sympathetically. "Ashley," I said quietly, "I think there's been some misunderstanding." "Charles, honey, this is exactly what I'm talking about," she interrupted gently. "You always think everything is fine, but that's part of the problem. People with early cognitive decline often can't recognize their own symptoms." But she was just getting started. Ashley had prepared a comprehensive character assassination. She produced photographs of me looking confused during recent family gatherings, pictures taken at moments when I was simply listening or thinking. She shared stories of conversations where I'd allegedly repeated myself or forgotten recent events. She had witnesses from our neighborhood who'd seen me wandering around looking lost when I was actually just taking evening walks. "Dr. Richards has documented these concerns in Charles's medical records," Ashley continued, producing photocopied pages. "Memory issues, confusion, difficulty with basic financial management. We've been hoping things would improve, but they're getting worse." Nathan finally spoke up, his voice reluctant but supportive. "Dad, we're just worried about you. We love you, and we want what's best." The guests started murmuring agreement. "You're such good people taking care of him like this. It's so hard when parents start declining." "Charles, you're lucky to have family who cares so much." "Lies dressed as love are the cruelest weapon." I looked around the table at faces full of sympathy and concern. These people genuinely believed they were witnessing a family intervention, a difficult but necessary conversation about an aging father's declining abilities. They had no idea they were watching a calculated theft in progress. Ashley opened another folder. "Nathan and I have found a solution. Sunset Manor is a beautiful assisted living facility about 20 minutes from here. They have an opening in their memory care unit starting December 1st. My blood turned to ice. She passed around a colorful brochure with photos of smiling elderly residents and cheerful common rooms. "It's not like those awful nursing homes you see on TV. This is more like a senior community. Charles would have his own apartment, 3 meals a day, medical supervision, and organized activities. Most importantly, he'd be safe." My funeral was being planned while I still breathed. "The monthly cost is $4,800, Ashley continued, "but that's actually less than Charles spends now on housing, food, and utilities. Plus, Nathan and I would visit every week. This isn't about getting rid of him. It's about getting him the care he needs." Linda, Ashley's mother, wiped away a tear. "Ashley, you're such a devoted daughter-in-law. Charles is so blessed to have you and Nathan looking out for him." Sarah, Nathan's cousin, reached over and squeezed my hand. "Uncle Charles, I know this is scary, but assisted living might be exactly what you need. My grandmother moved to a place like this last year, and she loves it." Even my neighbors, the Johnsons, nodded approvingly. "Charles, we've been worried about you too. Sometimes we hear you talking to yourself in the yard, and we wondered if everything was okay." I had been talking to my dog. Then came the final blow. Ashley pulled out a manila folder containing legal documents. "Nathan has power of attorney for Charles's medical and financial decisions. We've already spoken with the administrators at Sunset Manor, and they can accommodate Charles starting December 1st. We just wanted to tell everyone tonight so you'd understand why we're making this change." She presented the transition as a decision already made, a foregone conclusion supported by medical evidence and legal authority. The audience was just there to witness the caring family taking responsible action. I looked around the table at my family, people I'd loved, provided for, protected, and sacrificed for. They were looking at me with pity, sadness, and relief that someone else was handling the situation. Nathan couldn't meet my eyes. Ashley smiled at me with fake tenderness. Charles, we know this is hard to understand right now, but in a few months, you're going to love your new home. The moment of truth had arrived. Sometimes silence is the loudest response. I stood up slowly, my hands steady, my voice calm. Thank you all for coming to my home for dinner tonight. I emphasized the words my home deliberately. The first reminder that I owned the house they were sitting in, the food they were eating, and the story they were being told. I'm grateful to know where everyone stands. I walked to the kitchen and returned with a digital recorder, placing it on the table next to Ashley's folder of lies. I've been recording conversations in my own home for the past 3 weeks. Would you like to hear what Ashley and Nathan really think about my declining mental state? Ashley's face drained of color. I pressed play. Ashley's voice filled the room. His money's almost ours, baby. Just a little longer and the old man will be out of the way. The silence was deafening. Nathan's voice followed. Are you sure this will work? Baby, he signed the power of attorney in March. Once we get him into Sunset Manor, we'll have complete control of the accounts. $220,000 is a lot of money, Nathan. I watched the faces around my table change from sympathy to shock to horror. Ashley's parents stared at their daughter in disbelief. Nathan's cousins looked at him with disgust. My neighbors shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. There's more, I said quietly, fast-forwarding through 3 weeks of recorded conversations. Ashley discussing my funeral costs. Nathan agreeing to lie to Dr. Richards about my symptoms. Ashley researching how to force nursing home placement for difficult elderly relatives. I went to my room and made a phone call. When I returned, Ashley was frantically trying to explain to her parents that the recordings were taken out of context, and that she really was worried about my health. Nathan sat in stunned silence, finally understanding what his wife had turned him into. I called my attorney during dinner. I announced to the room, Edward Phillips will be here tomorrow morning to revoke the power of attorney Nathan signed under false pretenses. I also called Sunset Manor and informed them I will not be needing their services. Ashley stood up abruptly. Charles, you can't do this. You're not thinking clearly. Everyone here saw the evidence of your decline. Nathan has legal authority. Nathan has temporary authority that I granted voluntarily, I interrupted. I can revoke it at any time, especially when it's been obtained through fraud and elder abuse. I looked directly at my son. Nathan, you have a choice to make. You can continue supporting your wife's plan to steal my life savings and warehouse me in a nursing home, or you can remember who raised you and taught you right from wrong. They had no idea what I'd set in motion. The dinner ended with Ashley's parents leaving in disgust, Nathan's cousins offering me their support, and my neighbors apologizing for believing the lies they'd been told. Ashley screamed that I was ruining everything, and that she'd dedicated her life to taking care of me. Nathan said nothing at all. I went to my apartment and prepared for war. The hunter became the hunted. That night, after the last guest had left and Ashley's shouting had finally stopped, I sat in my small apartment reviewing 3 weeks of evidence. Digital recordings, photographs, bank statements, medical records, legal documents. I spread them across my kitchen table like a general planning a battle strategy. For months, I'd been reacting to their attacks, defending myself against their lies, trying to prove I wasn't the incompetent old man they wanted everyone to believe I was. But defense doesn't win wars. It was time to go on the offensive. Something inside me had changed forever during that dinner. The father who'd wanted to keep the family together at any cost was gone. The man who'd hoped Ashley would eventually accept and respect me was dead. The person who'd believed love could overcome greed had been buried under months of systematic abuse. What emerged from that funeral was someone harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. The transformation was physical as well as emotional. My spine straightened, my hands stopped shaking. My mind cleared of all the self-doubt Ashley had planted there. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not the confused, declining old man they'd portrayed, but but the sharp businessman who'd built a company from nothing and accumulated $2.12 million through decades of careful planning. I picked up my phone and dialed Edward Phillips, my attorney and old friend. "Edward, it's Charles Miller. I know it's late, but I need to see you first thing Monday morning. I have a situation that requires immediate legal action." The law protects the rightful owner. Monday's meeting with Edward was the first step in reclaiming my life. I arrived at his office at 8 a.m. with my folder of evidence and a clear list of objectives. "Charles, what the hell happened to you?" Edward asked after reviewing the recordings and documents. "I've known Nathan since he was in diapers. I can't believe he'd be involved in something like this." "Nathan's been manipulated," I explained. "But manipulation isn't an excuse for elder abuse and fraud. I need you to help me protect my assets and my rights." Edward confirmed what I'd hoped. The power of attorney documents could be revoked immediately since I was clearly competent, and the authority had been obtained through misrepresentation. My medical records from Dr. Richards could be challenged with an independent cognitive assessment. Most importantly, as the sole owner of my property and accounts, I had the right to control access and make changes without anyone's permission. "What's your ultimate goal here, Charles?" Edward asked. "I want my family to understand that theft has consequences. I want Ashley to learn that elder abuse is a crime, and I want Nathan to choose between his wife's greed and his father's love." But protection wasn't enough. I wanted justice. The legal framework for my counterattack was simpler than I'd expected. Revoking power of attorney required a single notarized document. Changing bank account access required my signature and identification. Removing Nathan as a co-signer on my property deed required one form filed with the county clerk. Canceling the verbal lease agreement that allowed them to live in my house required 30 days written notice. Everything they'd gained through months of careful manipulation could be undone in a single morning. "Charles," Edward warned, "this is going to destroy your relationship with Nathan permanently. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Nathan's silence during Ashley's Thanksgiving presentation, his willingness to support lies about my mental state, his agreement to have me committed to a nursing home against my will. The relationship Edward was worried about destroying had already been destroyed by my son's choices. "Edward, if Nathan chooses Ashley's plan over his father's dignity, then he's already made his decision about our relationship. I'm just making mine." Every chess piece had its purpose. The plan I developed that weekend was comprehensive and coordinated. Monday morning, revoke all legal authority Nathan held, transfer all funds to new accounts requiring only my signature, change all passwords and security access codes, file formal complaints about elder abuse with Adult Protective Services. Tuesday, serve eviction notice with 30 days to vacate the property. Wednesday, meet with new financial advisor to restructure all investments. Thursday, schedule independent cognitive assessment to document my mental competency. Friday, file police report about financial fraud and elder abuse. By the following Monday, everything they'd gained through manipulation would be gone. More importantly, they'd face potential criminal charges for elder abuse, fraud, and financial exploitation. I felt no guilt about these actions. Ashley and Nathan had declared war on my independence, dignity, and financial security. I was simply responding with equal force using legal weapons instead of manipulation and lies. The game began at dawn. Sunday night, I barely slept. Not from anxiety or fear, but from anticipation. For months, I'd been their victim, reacting to their attacks, trying to defend against their systematic abuse. Starting Monday morning, I would control the narrative, set the terms, and determine the consequences. I laid out my clothes for Monday morning like a soldier preparing for battle. Dark gray suit, red tie, black leather shoes. The uniform of a competent businessman, not a confused elderly man who needed protection from his own decisions. I reviewed my evidence files one final time. 3 weeks of recordings documenting Ashley and Nathan's real intentions. Medical records proving my cognitive abilities. Financial statements showing the systematic way they'd gained access to my resources. Legal documents demonstrating how they'd positioned themselves to control my life. Tomorrow, they would discover that the helpless old man they'd been abusing was actually a strategic adversary who'd been planning their downfall while they'd been planning his destruction. Ashley wanted my money. Nathan wanted my approval. Both of them wanted me out of the way. They were about to get exactly what they'd asked for. Money talks. Mine was saying goodbye. Monday morning, November 27th, I arrived at First National Bank at 8:02 a.m., 2 minutes after they opened. I wore my best gray suit and carried a briefcase containing 3 weeks of evidence and all the legal documents Edward Phillips had prepared over the weekend. The bank manager, Jennifer Walsh, had been handling my accounts for 12 years. She knew me as the careful businessman who'd built Miller Electric Company, not the confused elderly man Ashley had been portraying to everyone else. "Mr. Miller," Jennifer said, "what can we do for you today?" "I need to remove Nathan Miller as co-signer on all my accounts and transfer the complete balance to new accounts, requiring only my signature for access." Jennifer looked surprised. "All of them? That's a significant change. Are you sure about this decision?" I placed my digital recorder on her desk and played 30 seconds of Ashley's voice. "Once we get him into Sunset Manor, we'll have complete control of the accounts. $220,000 is a lot of money, Nathan." Jennifer's expression changed from confusion to understanding to anger. "Mr. Miller, I'm so sorry. Let's get this handled immediately." The process took 2 hours. Every dollar in every account, savings, checking, money market, and CDs, was transferred to new accounts bearing only my name. Nathan's co-signer status was permanently revoked. New account numbers, new passwords, new security questions that only I knew. By 10:15 a.m., Nathan and Ashley no longer had access to a single penny of my money. Next stop, the attorney's office. The law became my shield and sword. Edward Phillips had prepared a comprehensive package of legal documents over the weekend. Revocation of power of attorney, cancellation of medical decision-making authority, new will excluding Ashley entirely and placing Nathan's inheritance in a trust with strict conditions. Advanced medical directives, removing anyone except Edward from healthcare decisions. "Charles," Edward said as I signed each document, "you understand this is irreversible? Once these are filed, Nathan will have no legal authority over your affairs whatsoever." That's exactly what I want. The notary public witnessed every signature. Copies were immediately filed with the county clerk, my bank, my medical providers, and the Adult Protective Services Office. By noon, every piece of legal authority Ashley and Nathan had gained through manipulation was officially revoked. "What about the house?" Edward asked. I handed him a 30-day eviction notice I'd prepared. "They're tenants without a lease who have violated the terms of their occupancy through elder abuse. I want them out. Time to go home and deliver the news." I returned to my house at 12:30 p.m. to find Ashley frantically trying to use her credit card for grocery shopping. The card had been declined. Nathan was on the phone with the bank, his voice rising as the customer service representative explained that his access to the accounts had been permanently revoked. "Dad," Nathan shouted when he saw me, "what did you do? The bank says you removed me from all the accounts." "I protected my money from people who planned to steal it." Ashley grabbed my arm. "Charles, you can't do this. You're not thinking clearly. Nathan has power of attorney. He has legal authority to manage your finances." I handed her the notarized revocation documents. Had authority? Past tense. Reality hit like cold water. I watched Ashley's face as she read the legal papers. Color drained from her cheeks as she realized the scope of what had happened. Nathan looked over her shoulder, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "You can't just revoke power of attorney," Ashley screamed. "We have rights. We've been taking care of you. We've dedicated our lives to your well-being. You've dedicated your lives to planning my nursing home placement and accessing my bank accounts. There's a difference." I placed my digital recorder on the kitchen counter, the same kitchen where Ashley had whispered about my money, almost being theirs just 5 days earlier. But the real shock was still coming. I have 3 weeks of recordings documenting your fraud, manipulation, and elder abuse, I announced calmly. Would you like to hear them again, or should I save them for the police? Ashley's fury turned to panic. Those recordings were made without our permission. They're illegal. Actually, Ashley, they were made in my own home with my own equipment. In this state, recording conversations on your own property is completely legal, especially when those conversations involve planning crimes against you. I pressed play and let them hear their own voices, plotting my destruction. Ashley discussing my funeral costs while I was healthy. Nathan agreeing to lie to Dr. Richards about my symptoms. Both of them calculating how to access my money after I was out of the way. Nathan finally understood what his wife had turned him into. His face went pale as he heard himself agreeing to deceive doctors, manipulate family members, and commit me to a nursing home against my will. Dad, Nathan whispered, I didn't know it sounded like that. Ashley said we were protecting you. Protecting me from what? My own money? My own home? My own medical decisions? Truth has a voice of its own. I continued playing recordings while Ashley frantically tried to explain them away, her voice describing me as a burden to be disposed of, her detailed research into forced nursing home placement, her calculations about how long I was likely to live and how much money she could control. Nathan sank into a chair, finally hearing the woman he'd married without her mask of fake concern. Ashley, he said slowly, you told me Dad was actually getting confused. You said the nursing home was for his own safety. It was, she shrieked. He is confused. He's making horrible decisions. Look what he's doing to our family. What I'm doing, I said, is I'm protecting myself from people who see me as a bank account with an expiration date. Home is where the deed is. I handed Nathan the 30-day eviction notice. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. This is my house, and I'm taking it back. Ashley grabbed the notice and tore it in half. You can't evict us. We live here. Our children live here. This is our home. This is my house. You live here because I allowed it. I'm no longer allowing it. Nathan looked confused. Dad, we thought this was our family home now. Ashley said you'd signed it over to us. Ashley said many things that weren't true. I never signed over my house. I never gave you ownership of anything. I let you live here rent-free while you planned to have me committed to a nursing home. The power dynamic had completely reversed. The helpless elderly man they had been manipulating was now the homeowner holding an eviction notice. The caring family members were revealed as potential criminals facing elder abuse charges. Ashley played her last card. Nathan, she screamed, you have to choose. Either you stand up to your father and protect our family, or you let him destroy everything we've built together. And it was the same manipulation tactic she'd used for months, forcing Nathan to choose between his wife's demands and his father's dignity. But this time, Nathan had heard the recordings. He'd seen the evidence. He finally understood what everything we've built together actually meant. Nathan looked at his wife with new eyes. Ashley, did you really plan to put Dad in a nursing home just to get his money? I planned to get you the inheritance you deserve instead of watching your father waste it on his stubborn pride. It's not our money, Ashley. It's his money. Nathan, choose carefully, I said quietly, because after today there's no going back. Either you stand with the woman who manipulated you into elder abuse, or you remember that I'm your father and I deserve better. Cornered animals show their teeth. Ashley's mask finally came off completely. Fine. You want to know the truth, Charles? You are a burden. You are taking up space and wasting resources that should go to your family. Nathan deserves that money for his children's education and our future. You're going to die anyway. Why should you hoard $2 to $12 million while your family struggles? Her true nature was finally visible to everyone in the room. Not the caring daughter-in-law, not the concerned family member, not the devoted wife trying to protect her husband's father. Just a greedy, manipulative woman angry that her victim had fought back. Nathan stared at Ashley in horror. I can't believe you just said that. Nathan, wake up! I said what everyone else is thinking. Old people die. Money should go to the living. I'm not apologizing for wanting our family to be financially secure. I watched my son realize he'd been married to a stranger who saw his father as nothing more than an obstacle to wealth. Love can't save someone who chooses lies. Nathan had a choice to make, and he made it. He stood up and walked to Ashley's side. "Dad, I'm sorry," he said without meeting my eyes, "but Ashley is my wife, and her children are my responsibility now. I can't abandon my family." He'd chosen his wife's greed over his father's dignity. He'd chosen lies over truth. He'd chosen manipulation over love. "Then you've chosen to be part of her crimes," I replied, "and you have 30 days to leave my house." I watched them pack in silence. Sometimes love means letting go. The next week was the quietest my house had been in 4 years. No Ashley interrupting my conversations or monitoring my spending. No Nathan looking at me with pity and embarrassment. No whispered plans about my future carried through thin walls. Just peace and the sound of packing. Ashley and Nathan moved methodically through the house, boxing up 4 years of accumulated belongings. Ashley worked with grim efficiency, her fake sweetness replaced by cold anger. Nathan moved slowly, sometimes pausing to look at family photographs or childhood mementos, his face heavy with regret. I helped them load the moving truck, not out of forgiveness, but because I wanted them gone quickly and completely. "Dad," Nathan said as he carried his last box to the truck, "I know you think I made the wrong choice." "I think you made your choice," I replied. "That's all that matters." He looked at me for a long moment, his eyes full of confusion and guilt. "I love Ashley. I can't abandon my family. Son, I spent 72 years learning the difference between love and enablement. Some lessons cost everything." Nathan climbed into the passenger seat next to Ashley, who refused to even look at me as they drove away. I stood in my driveway and watched my son leave with the woman who'd taught him to see his father as a burden instead of a blessing. But I left them something to remember: reality without support. Within 2 weeks, Ashley and Nathan discovered what life looked like without my financial safety net. Their new apartment cost $1,800 per month, plus utilities, expenses they'd never faced while living rent-free in my house. Ashley's spending habits, which had been sustainable when I was paying for groceries, utilities, and maintenance, became impossible on Nathan's $3,200 monthly salary alone. The credit card debt they'd accumulated during their years of managing my finances, purchases made with the assumption they'd soon control my accounts, became crushing without my support. Ashley had bought furniture, clothes, and electronics for $18,000, confident that my money would eventually pay for everything. Nathan's paycheck covered rent, utilities, groceries, and minimum credit card payments with nothing left for the lifestyle Ashley had grown accustomed to. "We can't afford this apartment," Nathan told Ashley after their first month. "Maybe we should find something smaller." "Smaller?" Ashley shrieked. "I'm not downgrading my life because your stubborn father decided to be vindictive." But money wasn't their only problem. Reality travels faster than lies. The truth about Ashley's manipulation spread through our extended family and social circle like wildfire. Nathan's cousins, who'd been at the Thanksgiving dinner, told other relatives about the recordings. Ashley's parents, humiliated by their daughter's behavior, distanced themselves from both Ashley and Nathan. My neighbors, who'd witnessed months of Ashley's concern about my declining mental state, realized they'd been enlisted as witnesses to elder abuse. The social consequences were swift and comprehensive. Family gatherings excluded Ashley and Nathan. Former friends stopped calling. Their church community, where Ashley had portrayed herself as a devoted caregiver, learned the truth about her real motivations. Nathan began to understand the extent of his wife's manipulation of others, not just me. "Why did you tell the Petersons that Dad was getting senile?" he asked Ashley after running into our former neighbors at the store. "They said you've been spreading stories about his confusion for months." "I was building a case," Ashley snapped. "I was establishing a pattern so everyone would support our decision when we needed to take action." "You mean when you needed to steal his money?" Predators need prey to survive. Without my money to obsess over and my independence to systematically destroy, Ashley turned her manipulation tactics on Nathan himself. The same controlling behavior she'd used against me, monitoring spending, questioning decisions, undermining confidence, now targeted my son. Nathan, why did you spend $40 on groceries? That's way too much for 1 week. You're being irresponsible with money, just like your father. Nathan, you forgot to call the electric company yesterday. Are you starting to have memory problems like Charles did? Nathan, maybe I should handle our finances from now on. You seem confused about budgeting. The psychological abuse that had been directed at me for months now had a new victim. Nathan experienced firsthand what I'd endured: the constant criticism, the manufactured emergencies, the gradual erosion of autonomy and dignity. For the first time, Nathan understood what his wife was capable of when she couldn't control someone. Nathan started asking questions. 3 months after leaving my house, Nathan called Edward Phillips to ask about divorce procedures. He'd discovered Ashley had a previous marriage that ended under similar circumstances, an elderly relative who'd suddenly needed nursing home care, a husband who'd been manipulated into supporting financial decisions he didn't understand, and a divorce when the money ran out. "Mr. Phillips," Nathan said during their confidential meeting, "I think I need to know the truth about what Ashley did to my father, and I need to know how to protect myself." Edward handed Nathan copies of the recordings I'd made. "Your father suspected you were being manipulated too. He wanted you to have these when you were ready to hear them." Nathan listened to 3 weeks of evidence and finally understood who he'd married and what he'd nearly become. Then Nathan found the letter. Reality is an expensive teacher. 6 months after Ashley and Nathan moved out of my house, their financial situation had become desperate. Ashley's inability to control spending, combined with Nathan's modest income and the debt they'd accumulated while expecting to inherit my money, created a crisis they couldn't resolve. Their apartment rent increased to $1,950 per month after the first year. Ashley's credit card debt reached $31,000. Nathan's overtime hours were eliminated when his company downsized. The lifestyle Ashley had built around the assumption of eventually controlling $2.12 million collapsed under the weight of reality. "We need to declare bankruptcy," Nathan told Ashley in April. "We can't keep making minimum payments on this debt." "Bankruptcy?" Ashley screamed. "That's not acceptable. Your father owes us this money. He's stealing your inheritance." Ashley still couldn't accept that money she'd never earned wasn't rightfully hers. But financial problems were only the beginning. Truth travels faster than lies. By spring, the story of Ashley's elder abuse had spread beyond our immediate family and neighbors. Someone shared the story in a local Facebook group about protecting elderly parents from scams. The post went viral in our community, with hundreds of comments from people sharing similar experiences with manipulative family members. Ashley's employer, a medical office where she worked as a receptionist, learned about her attempted financial elder abuse when patients began asking uncomfortable questions. "Isn't that the woman who tried to steal money from her father-in-law?" The medical practice, which served many elderly patients, quietly terminated Ashley's employment to avoid association with her reputation. Nathan's workplace became uncomfortable when coworkers learned about his involvement in the elder abuse scheme. His supervisor called him in for a private meeting. "Nathan, I need to ask you directly. Did you participate in an attempt to defraud your father's finances and force him into unwanted nursing home placement?" Nathan couldn't deny the facts. "It's complicated, sir. My wife convinced me that my father needed help, and I made some bad decisions." "Nathan, our company serves elderly clients through government contracts. We can't employ someone who's been involved in elder abuse, even family-related elder abuse. I'm sorry, but we're going to have to let you go." Nathan lost his job and his reputation in the same week. Social isolation followed economic collapse. Ashley's book club expelled her when members learned about her manipulation of me. Nathan's softball league asked him to leave when other players' parents expressed concerns about his character. Their church community, where they'd been active members, politely suggested they find another congregation. The social network Ashley had carefully cultivated while portraying herself as my devoted caregiver disappeared when people learned her true motivations. But the worst consequences were still coming: the marriage cracking. Without external targets for her manipulation and control, Ashley turned her full attention to Nathan himself. The same pattern she'd used against me, questioning his competence, monitoring his activities, undermining his confidence, now dominated their marriage. Nathan, you used to be so much more decisive before your father poisoned your mind against me. Nathan, maybe you're having memory problems too. You forgot to mail that bill yesterday, just like Charles used to forget things. Nathan, I think I should handle all our financial decisions from now on. You've proven you can't be trusted with important choices. Ashley had trained Nathan to accept this behavior when she directed it at me. Now he experienced firsthand the psychological abuse I'd endured for months. The constant criticism, manufactured crises, and systematic erosion of autonomy became his daily reality. Nathan started researching emotional abuse and manipulation tactics. What he learned terrified him. In July, Nathan made a discovery that changed everything. While Ashley was at work, Nathan found her laptop open to a Facebook Messenger conversation with her sister. The messages dated back 2 years and contained detailed discussions about handling Charles and getting access to Nathan's inheritance. Once the old man signs power of attorney, we'll have everything we need, Ashley had written. Nathan is so easy to manipulate. He believes whatever I tell him about his father's declining health. Are you sure Charles won't figure out what you're doing? Her sister had replied. He's old and trusting. Besides, Nathan will support whatever I decide because he thinks I'm protecting his father. Men are so stupid about family manipulation. They always think women are just being caring. Nathan discovered that Ashley's campaign against me had been planned from the beginning of their marriage. Every concern about my mental health, every suggestion about power of attorney, every step toward nursing home placement had been calculated moves in a long-term financial scheme. But the most devastating discovery was still ahead. Nathan kept reading the Facebook messages and found conversations about Ashley's previous marriage. Her first husband had been manipulated into supporting decisions about his elderly mother's care. Ashley had convinced him that his mother needed nursing home placement and that they should manage her finances for her protection. The marriage had ended when the husband discovered Ashley had stolen $94,000 from his mother's accounts. I learned from my mistakes with husband number 1, Ashley had written to her sister. This time I'm being more careful about the legal documentation and making sure Nathan is fully involved in every decision. If anything goes wrong, he'll be just as responsible as I am. But Nathan realized he hadn't been Ashley's husband. He'd been her accomplice in planned elder abuse. Every signature he'd provided, every doctor's appointment where he'd supported her lies about my mental state, every family conversation where he had agreed with her concerns, had made him legally complicit in her scheme. Ashley had protected herself by making Nathan equally guilty. When Ashley came home from work that evening, Nathan was waiting with divorce papers and a copy of her Facebook messages. I know what you did, he said quietly. I know what you are, and I know what you turned me into. Ashley's response revealed her true nature one final time. Nathan, don't be dramatic. So what if I planned ahead? Your father is old and stubborn, and he was wasting money that should have come to us. I did what you were too weak to do yourself. She still believed she'd done nothing wrong. Then Nathan found the letter. Hidden in Ashley's jewelry box, Nathan discovered a letter I'd written to him 6 months earlier and given to Edward Phillips with instructions to deliver it when Nathan is ready to choose love over manipulation. The letter contained everything Nathan needed to understand how Ashley's abuse had affected me and how her manipulation had corrupted him. But more importantly, it contained an offer of reconciliation if Nathan was willing to choose truth over lies, love over greed, and family over manipulation. Nathan, the letter concluded, the door is always open for you alone when you're ready to remember who you used to be before she taught you to see your father as a burden instead of a blessing. Nathan filed for divorce the next day. Sometimes protecting family means protecting them from each other. Nathan called me on a Tuesday afternoon in September, 8 months after he'd chosen Ashley over truth at our kitchen table. Dad, his voice was quiet, uncertain. I got your letter from Mr. Phillips. I filed for divorce. I understand now what Ashley did to both of us, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. I'd been waiting for that call since the day he drove away with her. Nathan, come home. We need to talk. When Nathan walked through my front door, he looked like a different person. Thinner, older, humbler. The arrogant confidence Ashley had given him was gone, replaced by the uncertain humility of someone who'd learned hard lessons about truth and consequences. Dad, can you ever forgive me? Son, forgiveness is different from trust. Forgiveness I can give you today. Trust you'll have to earn back over time. I handed Nathan a small velvet jewelry box containing his mother's wedding ring, the ring I'd removed from my finger the night I'd decided to fight back against Ashley's manipulation. This belongs to you, I said. When you find someone who loves you enough to value your family instead of trying to destroy it, give this to her. Nathan opened the box and started crying. Your inheritance is waiting in the account I opened the day I took the money back from Ashley, I told him. All $220,000 plus interest. It was never about the money, Nathan. It was about respect, dignity, and teaching you the difference between love and manipulation. Nathan's divorce was finalized 3 months later. Ashley returned to her home state, where she eventually married an elderly widower who owned a successful business. Nathan warns his new family members every chance he gets. I volunteer at the county's Elder Abuse Prevention Program now, helping other families recognize manipulation before it's too late. Some lessons cost everything, but some lessons save everyone. The door was always open. Love finds a way home.